Have you ever tried to forget someone who was already gone? Have you ever realized that sometimes letting go isn't a choice, it's survival? This is not a love poem, it's a funeral for what refuses to die. Pablo Neruda didn't write this for the living. He wrote it for the ghosts, for the ones who left, and for the ones forced to stay behind. Inside a body that still remembers. Inside a world that keeps moving, even when you don't know how to. This isn't about death. It's about the brutal, silent violence of surviving someone you can no longer hold. The year was 1959. Neruda was no longer the boy of poem 20, no longer the exile of If You Forget Me, no longer the man suffocating in walking around, and no longer the seeker who dissolved himself into the sea. Now, he was a man facing the last exile of all, the one no country, no revolution, no ocean can save you from: loss. The Dead Woman was written during his mature years, the years when Neruda realized that not even poetry can hold back time. This poem wasn't written for fame. It wasn't written for readers. It wasn't even written for the woman it names. It was written for survival. Because there comes a moment in every life when loving someone means learning how to live without them. And when even memory becomes heavier than silence. Neruda understood something most people never dare admit, that sometimes loving someone means letting them die inside you so that you can keep breathing.
If suddenly you do not exist, if suddenly you no longer live, I shall live on. I do not dare to write it. If you die, I shall live on. For where a man has no voice, there shall be my voice. Where blacks are beaten, I cannot be dead. When those who cannot speak are exploited, I cannot be dead. Even if you die, I shall live on.
This isn't about death. It never was. It's about the unbearable violence of being the one who stays. Because here's the terrible truth no one dares to say out loud. When someone leaves, they take a piece of you with them, a piece you will never get back. And the world doesn't care. The sun still rises. The streets still hum. The mirror still shows a face. But it's not the same face anymore. What no one tells you is this: the cruelest part of grief isn't the absence, it's the survival. It's the suffocating, nauseating realization that life keeps going, that your hands still move, that your lungs still pull air, that your legs still walk. And every single one of those things, this feels like betrayal. How dare the world go on when they are not here? How dare your body survive when their hands are no longer wrapped around yours? And maybe you've whispered it in the dark. maybe only once, maybe 1,000 times. I shouldn't be here if you're not. But the truth Neruda hands us, raw, merciless, brutal, is this: survival isn't a choice, it's a sentence. And that's why the poem is short. That's why it's only a few lines. Because death doesn't explain itself. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't justify. It just happens. One breath, then none. One voice, then silence. One presence, then absence. And the ones left behind. We keep walking, we keep breathing, not because we want to, not because we know how, but because the body, cruelly, hasn't figured out how to stop. And maybe the only thing harder than losing someone is realizing you didn't lose yourself with them, that you are still here, walking, breathing, existing, and that, somehow, that's the most violent thing of all, because when death comes, it's simple, it's quiet, it's instant, it's a line break in the middle of a sentence. But surviving is long, it's brutal, it's the slow violence of remembering every single day that you're still here. And that is a kind of death no one ever prepares you for. Because even when the body leaves, even when the hands are no longer here, even when the voice goes silent, the words stay, the fire stays, the wound stays. Because survival is not healing. Survival is a sentence. And when the grief no longer fits inside the chest, it spills. It becomes language. It becomes memory. It becomes the unbearable echo of a love that has nowhere else to live except inside you. But this is not the end, because there are still things left to honor, still voices to carry, still truths to whisper, even when no one is listening. In the next episode, we return not to grief, but to the invisible, to what holds the world together, quietly, faithfully, without asking for thanks. Pablo Neruda's Ode to Salt. Coming next in Enlighten My Silence.